Jonathan Mingo is no longer a Carolina Panther, but Adam Thielen, Jadeveon Clowney, and Miles Sanders are here to stay. Let's talk about the NFL trade deadline and answer some mailbag questions live from Munich, Germany.
You are Locked On Panthers, your daily Carolina Panthers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome into another edition of the Locked On Panthers podcast, a part of the Locked On Podcast Network. I'm your host, as always, Julian Council, talking Carolina Panthers with you every Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. Your team every day. That's our motto here on the Locked On Podcast Network. Thanks for watching the show here live on YouTube and listening wherever you listen to your favorite podcast. Be sure to follow me, Julian Council, on Twitter at Julian Council, where on Wednesdays like today, I answer your weekly Wednesday mailbag questions. All you got to do is either at me or DM me. And if you feel inclined, you can also follow me on Twitter at Julian Council to get your questions in for the weekly Wednesday mailbag, all regular season long here on Locked On Panthers. This episode of Locked On Panthers is brought to you by our friends over at PrizePicks. Go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnNFL and use code all lowercase LockedOnNFL to win $50 instantly when you play $5. I am coming to you live here from my hotel in Munich, Germany, as Carolina Panthers are facing off against the New York Giants on Sunday morning, East Coast time, but here Sunday afternoon, 3:30 p.m. local kickoff. Week 10, 2-7 teams facing off here. And what could be kind of a gross game, but I'm excited to see how things play out as the Panthers get that big win, 23-22 at home on Sunday against the Saints. Dennis Allen now in the unemployment line, but want to answer some mailbag questions on today's show. Also want to talk about the trade deadline, and also apologies because I am here at this hotel. I bought the enhanced Wi-Fi. We've done this before. We did it live in Boston. We've done it live in Arizona. I'm at a Marriott. I pay for the enhanced. It's not really that much better, but we're going to try and do it. So hopefully, I'm going to look at the comments right now. Hopefully things aren't terrible as far as the feed goes, but I appreciate everybody who's here with me live and everybody's checking out the podcast in the podcast feed and watching it later on here on YouTube. So let's talk about it. Jonathan Mingo is no longer a Carolina Panther. Bryce Young is still a Carolina Panther, even though we don't know whether he's going to start on Sunday. He should, but we don't know whether it's going to happen or not. We do know he's at least here for the remaining 8 games of the season. Jadeveon Clowney is also staying here in Carolina. Miles Sanders is here, and Adam Thielen, probably most notably, is sticking around for the final 8 games of the season. But starting off with the move the Panthers did make on Tuesday afternoon, Jonathan Mingo, the second-round pick from a year ago, 39th overall out of Ole Miss, did not contribute under Lane Kiffin at Oxford, and shocker, did not contribute in the NFL. Hated the pick from day one, hated it last year, hated it going into this year, and we saw the last 4 weeks, 1 reception on 5 targets for 1 yard. Yikes. Like, what a terrible draft pick and really draft class that it's turned out to be so far from 2023. Scott Barrett, the former general manager, obviously no longer here in Carolina. The hope is Bryce Young, after he played well on Sunday with the development, if Dave Canales will give him a chance and actually show confidence in him, hopefully that will salvage what's left of that draft class. But Mingo, the second-round pick, clearly did not work out. He heads to Dallas as the Panthers send him and a 7th-round pick for a 4th-round pick. And that really was the surprise of the deal. It's not surprising at all that Mingo is no longer a Panther. Had read reports throughout the last couple of weeks that he was on his way out. We had talked about this on yesterday's show, that he was a name that would make sense to send him out. I did not think that in return, Carolina would get a 4th. Now, here's the situation here. He is in his 2nd year in the NFL. Got 2 more years left on his deal. You got to look at the pre-draft process and teams that liked him. There's a lot of teams that saw him as a top 50 pick. Carolina was one of them, even though, as I told you on yesterday's show, from some intel I got, some people in the building last year felt like he was truly a 4th-round pick, and the Panthers took him in the 2nd round, 39th overall, which just speaks to how poorly managed this team has been over the last couple of years. Yes, David Tepper is the problem. A lot of people he's hired have also been the problem when you draft someone where some people in the building think he's a 4th-round pick, others think he's a top 50 pick. And the Dallas Cowboys, Jerry Jones came out and said he was someone they really liked in the pre-draft process, which helps the Panthers in this situation. The Cowboys like them. The Cowboys are desperate, even though Dak is on IR, and their season's going down to tank. Mike McCarthy, his days in Dallas are dwindling down. He will not be the head coach next year if Jonathan Mingo is still a Cowboy. They liked him. They get him for a fourth rounder. The Panthers last week in a trade no one liked as far as the compensation, they went up 20 picks as of looking at tankathon.com. There's 8 compensatory picks at the end of the 5th round. The Panthers so far have gone up 20 picks from where they were in the 6th round by making that pick swap with the Baltimore Ravens to send Deontay Johnson to Baltimore, a player who there were communication issues, according to Jonathan Jones of CBS Sports, who used to cover the Panthers for the Charlotte Observer. Really, the guy was just a pain in the ass. He was a malcontent in Pittsburgh. And if Mike Tomlin doesn't want to deal with you like he didn't want to deal with Antonio Brown and with Chase Claypool and with Le'Veon Bell, maybe it's you. Maybe it's not the team. Maybe it's you needing to get on board and stop complaining and crying all the time because you're not getting the ball and things aren't going your way. So the Panthers didn't want to deal with it. Deontay Johnson, though, is actually a good player, but he's also a player on an expiring deal, and any acquiring team is not sure whether he's going to be a rental or someone they can re-sign in the future. So that's why the compensation, at least last week, was 20 picks as of this moment, and the Panthers just wanted to get that deal done because they were tired of Deontay Johnson. With Mingo, he can't play, so Carolina didn't need him. Jalen Coker, an undrafted free agent out of Holy Cross, beat him out and has played really well the last couple of weeks, especially considering the expectations. When you look at his receiving success rate, you look at his catch percentage, it's among the best in the NFL. Now, he does not have the requisite amount of snaps to actually rank among the best in the NFL, but you look at it by not taking account the snaps that receivers have played, he's been pretty doggone good for the Panthers the last couple of weeks. Mingo, though, has been a non-factor. This year is a non-factor last year, and he leaves Carolina with 0 career touchdown receptions, and we'll see if things change in Dallas. We always talk about guys getting a different place to go play at, change of scenery. Maybe that helps him. Maybe it will. I wish him the best of luck, honestly. Do I think he's going to have success in Dallas? No. He can't play, so it doesn't matter. But the Panthers get a 4th-round pick, and you'll take it. So context is key. Deontay Johnson, clearly a better player. He's been an all-pro as a returner. He's been a Pro Bowler before as a receiver. Obviously a better player, older player as well, but he's someone where the expiring contract, his reputation, which it didn't leave the Panthers really getting much more than what Pittsburgh got when they traded him, or when they traded him to Carolina, where really it was a 6th-round pick that Pittsburgh Steelers had to send to Carolina, or at least Carolina to send to Pittsburgh to get Deontay Johnson. The compensation didn't really improve that much for the reasons that we listed out below. Mingo, it's just hoping that things get better. And this is also another reason why whenever the Panthers, if they do decide to move on from Bryce Young, will still get a decent return. The hope is if they do move on from Bryce, which I'm hoping that Bryce plays well the next 8 games, he can be the quarterback again in 2025. But based off of history and the way Dave Canales has gone about things, we don't know what's going to happen tomorrow on Wednesday, whether Dave's going to come out and say Bryce is the guy. But Jeremy Fowler, we talked about it on the show yesterday, came out over the weekend prior to the Saints game, which is important, talking to someone within the building saying they believe Andy Dalton will get another opportunity. If Andy Dalton gets another opportunity, well, I don't have a lot of hair to pull out, but I would try to pull it out, as that will be very frustrating because there's no future of Andy Dalton here in Carolina, and to be completely asinine for this franchise to go with a player who's 37 damn years old and has been around from Chicago to Dallas, to New Orleans, Carolina, and we know who he is at this point in time. We're still trying to figure out 20 starts into this career, who Bryce Young is and if he can be the answer for Carolina long term. There's still a lot of doubt, and I would lean towards him not being the answer right now instead of him being the answer. Let's get 8 more games to see whether that's the case. But at the end of the day, if they do move on from Bryce Young, looking at Jonathan Mingo with the Panthers, we're able to get from him or for him, that tells you Bryce Young, who was drafted 1st overall, plays a far more important position. Plenty of teams are going to look at their pre-draft analysis of him, and they're going to say, this is a good player. The problem is, the Panthers have a terrible owner. Frank Reich had an old offense. Thomas Brown didn't know what the hell he was doing. Offensive line was banged up. Receivers were terrible last season. All right, Dave Canales, play calling hasn't been great. Screen. Really, my guy? That's what we're trying to do here? They're going to look at Carolina, and they're going to say, it's the Panthers. It ain't Bryce Young. And I've already seen someone come out here and say, we typically see players have an uptick after you leave Carolina. That's not going to happen with Jonathan Mingo. So Frank Schraub of yahoo.com, good guy. Had him on shows before back when I used to be a producer in the radio biz. You're wrong. Mingo can't play, so it doesn't really matter. But looking at the rest of the guys that are sticking around, Adam Thielen, would have loved for Adam to get an opportunity to go elsewhere to actually try to win. I think he's gone after this season anyways. There's an out in his contract. Panthers can save some money cap space wise. They really do need to open up some of that cap space. It helps to have him coming in with Jalen Coker and Xavier Legette. It also gives Bryce Young an opportunity to have a veteran receiver who he really leaned on last year, the 100 receptions, 1,000 yards, 4 touchdowns. We're going to see more of that, hopefully starting this Sunday in Munich if he's able to go. Last couple of weeks, he was sitting out. I was wondering, was that the Panthers actually needing to give Thielen more time, or was that them waiting to see whether they could trade him before the deadline? In Pittsburgh, who traded for Mike Williams, according to Mike Kay of the Charlotte Observer, was a team that actually was interested in Thielen before going to Mike Williams, who really hasn't done much at all. And speaking of Mike and his reporting, the Panthers, the 7th-round pick that they're sending to Dallas in the Mingo trade is the one they got from Kansas City in the Amir Smith-Marset trade last year. And Amir Smith-Marset, I believe, is now... who's he play for? He plays for somebody. I can't remember who he plays for. Whoever played on Monday night, that's who he plays for. So that's the situation there. Jadeveon Clowney, we had seen some reporting. Dana Rossini was saying that he was a name, along with Miles Sanders, that could be on the way out. But then Ian Rappaport on Sunday morning was saying that he was going to stick around. For me, doesn't really matter. He's not an impact player at this point in time. I have a friend who actually was roasting me last year because I was saying Clowney is just a name. Then Clowney went out to Baltimore, had 9.5 sacks. Okay, fine. You got me. Hand up. Got it wrong. Maybe more than just a name. This year, well, just a name. 1 sack, 5 pressures, has not been an impact player. Did make a big play on Sunday, and that win on that final drive against New Orleans. The Panthers are overpaying him. They have to do this, I guess, if you're a team in their situation. They're trying to replace Brian Burns, who they should have just paid, and Burns' revenge game coming on Sunday. The Clowney sticks around. It will be nice to see him and DJ Woonem, the 2 Gamecocks out there, both on the edge, hopefully playing meet me at the quarterback. We'll see if that actually happens on Sunday, but the improvement of the pass rush would be nice to see for the Panthers in the second half of the season, with both of those guys likely available on Sunday and moving forward. Then Miles Sanders, Jonathan Brooks is coming and maybe happening. We'll find out on Wednesday whether he's going to be taken off of, he's already had the practice window, but if he's going to be elevated to the active roster, we'll find about that on Wednesday. And if he is, Miles Sanders, I don't really know what his role is going to be. I guess he'll be active. Is there any need? You already have Raheem Blackshear returning kicks. You're going to have Brooks out there. You're also going to have Chuba Hubbard, who is the workhorse back. Do you need 4 running backs and one of them who doesn't play special teams and has just been a pass catcher, and Chuba's been catching the ball? He has the highest catch percentage so far on the team. And I'm pretty sure he's a leading receiver, which is crazy to think. And that's just how bad things have been so far this season. I think they're going to get better with Adam Thielen coming back and Xavier Legette and Jalen Coker continuing to improve as rookies. They don't need Miles Sanders, so tough luck for him. The Panthers probably had to eat some of that salary. They just did that with Deontay Johnson, even though it's less salary they had to eat with him than they likely would have eaten when it came to Miles Sanders. That's how things settled down at the trade deadline. So Jonathan Mingo, terrible pick from day one, terrible player from day one. Now he's Jared Jones' problem, and the Cowboys are not going to benefit from it this season. Maybe next year. We'll see him in a couple weeks, and rough days here. Not here, but they're in Big D. So the Panthers trade away Jonathan Mingo, keep some of their vets, and we'll see what they're able to do. Would love to see them kind of go on a streak here, have a chance on Sunday against the Giants, and then get a bye week. And who knows, maybe shock the road against KC. Probably not. Either way, that's the trade deadline. All right. So typically on Wednesdays, I answer, I guess, but we as a collective, we're all in it together, answer some mailbag questions. I did not write these down. I did not really prepare. We're just doing it live. So I'm going to go through my DMs. I'm going to do my ads on Twitter, and I'm just going to pick mailbag questions and answer them live here on the show. And we're just going to wing it here in Munich. So appreciate everybody here. We'll talk about that here in just a moment on Locked On Panthers. Hey, Panther fans, remember our great partner, Ultimate Pro Football GM? Well, they're back, and they have added an amazing new game mode I need to tell you about. The game that has you step into the shoes of a football franchise GM and lead it to glory now has a new head coach career mode. So on top of getting to build your dynasty by drafting players, signing free agents, and the hiring coaching staff, now you also get to call offensive plays during a game as well. I know a lot of you out there would love to call the offensive plays. This is your chance. Additionally, You'll dig the new tools you can work with, such as individual training camps and upgraded negotiation system. So this fun and realistic game just got a lot better. If you already have it installed, be sure to do an update so you can try out the new mode. If you don't have it yet, download it right now. It's a must-have for all football fans. I love it, and I know you will too. Ultimate Pro Football GM is completely free, has no ads, and 100% playable offline. Play on the go as you want and when you want to. And here's a special offer for Locked On fans like you. Use the promo code LOCKEDONNFL, all caps, inside the game store to receive a free boost to your franchise. Make sure to get it, as this perk will jumpstart your play and give you the advantage you'll want in creating a dynasty. To download the game, just visit ultimate-gm.com, or you can look it up in the app stores. Ultimate Pro Football GM. Start your dynasty today. You can now win up to 100 times your money on Prize Picks, as little as 4 correct picks. Prize Picks is the best way to get action on sports in over 30 states, including California, Florida, Georgia, Texas, and the old North state of North Carolina. Sign up today and get $50 instantly when you play $5. You don't even need to win to receive $50 bonus. It's guaranteed. Prize Picks is the best way to win real money this football season. Which players are going off, which ones aren't. Make your picks in less than 60 seconds and turn your sports opinions to real money all season long on Prize Picks. Download the app today and use code LOCKEDONNFL to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code LOCKEDONNFL to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks. Run your game. All right, back here on Locked On Panthers, live from my hotel here in Munich, Germany. I am running on fumes, y'all. I'm really wondering how the hell someone like Robert Hunt is going to be able to take that flight on Thursday and practice on Friday. I get it. I'm not in the peak physical condition like these NFL players, but man, I got an hour of sleep. I paid the extra money to have all that leg room. You saw it on Twitter at Julian Council. Had all that leg room. Was able to recline back. I hate people that recline. I had to do it. If it's an overnight flight, if it's longer than like 4 hours, it's fair game. But if it's not fair game. That's just my opinion. I know people are going to disagree. That's just how I feel. So I felt like I had a chance to sleep. Took some melatonin. Didn't work. Got like 1 hour and 18 minutes of sleep, according to my Apple Watch. And I have been up here in Munich since 11:45, walking around, drinking some beers, taking in the culture, of course, as one would do when in Munich. And tired, ready to go to sleep. Going to do that after this and wake up tomorrow and hopefully feel refreshed and get going. So I don't know how those guys are going to do it, but they're going to have to figure it out, as Panthers and the Giants are both planning on traveling on Thursday. I don't know what time they're going to be flying over. It would make sense. I mean, they have their own planes, so they make sense to try and do it, I guess, in the morning, get here at night, go to sleep. And then I assume that would probably put them on the best pace as far as getting on the time. Whatever. Let's talk about the mailbag questions as we do on Wednesdays. Just going to wing it here, which is not what I typically do. But looking at some questions, let's see here. We got Carson. He, on his Twitter bio, says, unfortunately, a Panthers fan. Not unfortunately today, Carson. Today's a good day. He said, hey, Julian, just curious of your thoughts on Dan Morgan's success as far as UDFA is as of late with Jalen Coker and Imani Richardson. Is it just throwing bleep at the wall and something has stuck, or does Dan Morgan have a knack for finding diamonds in the rough? Next week, I do want to actually do a bit of a breakdown of the rookie class so far, because when you look at it, Leggett helping him out, Wallace helping him out, Brooks about to make his debut likely on Sunday. Haven't seen Crumedy. He could make his debut on Sunday as well. It's not been a JT Sanders. It's actually been a pretty solid return so far. And when was the last time you look at the Panthers rookie class and liked what you saw from some of those guys? 2020, Derek Brown and Jeremy Chin. Like, that feels like the last time you saw multiple rookies making this kind of impact. So I'm loving what he's doing so far. The trades, it sucks that the Deontay Johnson trade ends up with Mike Jackson being CB2. That's like, at the end of the day, that's what the Panthers ended up having. Now, he did make a big play on Sunday. He was really good in that Raiders game, aside from that deep ball he gave up. So he has factored in both of the wins the Panthers have had so far this season. But at the end of the day, you don't have the guys that you actually wanted who could be impact players for your team, and that's okay. The UDFA as a Coker has been good, and there's a lot of teams in the NFL that were interested in Jalen Coker. The Panthers were able to sign him. He liked the opportunity here in Carolina. Carolina took a risk by cutting him after roster cutdown day. We're able to get him. And Dave Canales did bring this up, I think, a week ago when he was asked about it. The fact that the Panthers are a team that had him in camp were able to have more intimate knowledge of what his strengths are, what his weaknesses are, and just a relationship in general where they're able to retain him once he cleared waivers. Had they not been in that situation, they probably don't have him on the roster right now where he has excelled. And then Deontay Richardson comes down to just guys not being healthy. Jordan Fuller, he's missed the last 6 games with a hamstring injury suffered in that win, week 3 against Las Vegas. Nick Scott, who not good anyways, he's on IR. You've seen Jamie Robinson with a knee injury missed the last couple of weeks as well. Deontay Richardson played really well at A&M, and he's getting an opportunity. I remember that day, I think it was a Monday, had been like week 2 training camp. I was out there. He picked off Bryce Young, picked off Jack Plummer, which is not saying much anyways, but still going out there, made some plays. Now, the second one, maybe not a pick, but Jerry Rivero said, we're going to count it as a pick. He made an impact in that practice, and that Saturday night against the Jets made an impact. And so far, we're seeing it. You have to find these kind of guys. And that's been the problem for this organization where they've hit on the first-round picks. Recently, they have not hit on the second-round picks. Terrace Marshall, bust. Jonathan Mingo, bust. If that's even fair to call a second-round pick a bust, those guys have not worked out. The mid-round guys also have not really worked out. You got to be able to find these UDFAs, and they're finding it right now with Deontay Richardson, who even if Fuller comes back this week, I don't even know if he should play. He's only on a 1-year deal anyways. Why not have the young guy who could actually be your future play, especially when he's been playing pretty well? Now, he's one of the leading tacklers on Sunday. That's not a good thing. That's because the Panthers are terrible against the run. They can't stop anybody up front, so the safety's got to get involved. And unlike Xavier Woods and Nick Scott and some of the other guys in the back end, he actually wasn't whiffing on a bunch of tackles, which is nice to see. So that fact should have him on the field on Sunday against the Giants and for the rest of the season. But that's a positive. Jalen Coker mentioned it earlier. Catch percentage, success rate, been really good. That's a guy that you want to keep out there and continue to grow. So kudos to Dan Morgan. The hallway elevation has had its benefits so far. All right, let's go over to another one. It looks like Alex, who is a big Panther fan in the UK. Said I don't have to answer this one on the mailbag, but he's going to get it answered here on the mailbag. He said, if this happens, if that is to, okay, he was talking about Bryce Young as far as showing gradual improvements the last few weeks. And as much as he would want him to stay in Carolina, his question is for the organization, if they decide to move on, if that happens, I think we should consider acquiring a younger quarterback via trade like Trey Lance rather than draft. Then try to keep Andy as a vet. After seeing the work analysis did with Geno and Baker, I think this would work well. It was an unfortunate circumstance with Lance in San Francisco, given he got injured. Then so did Garoppolo, which led to the rising of Purdy, yada, yada, yada. Okay, so we're seeing in the NFL that guys who don't have a lot of experience in college aren't having success. Trey Lance barely played at FCS, North Dakota State. He had that one game during the panty that was just like a showcase basically for his pro prospects where he was okay. I think he's only completed like 50% of his passes in that game. And they took him, the San Francisco 49ers took him based on potential, not based off of what he had done. Brock Purdy started for all 4 years at Iowa State. Brocktober, you ever heard of it? If you watched him back when he was at Ames, dude would cook. Iowa State would cook back in October. He was a good player. And anyone who watched him in college, I'm surprised. I didn't think Brock Purdy was going to be this good. But in a way, you understand, all right, he had a lot of experience. We're seeing Jaden Daniels coming out there and have success. Bo Nix, to a lesser extent, played a lot in college. He's having success. Where guys like Caleb Williams, taking a little bit of time, didn't start that much. Drake May is started for 2 years at Carolina, and he's got to work his way in as well. But the guys who've been in college for a while, we're seeing that. I think Drew Brees was talking about getting those like 50 starts, which is hard to do. You got to stick around for 4 years to get those 50 starts. And nowadays, everyone wants to go leap to the draft. But I think there might be a change where you see someone like Carson Beck, who's really been terrible this year at Georgia. He sticks around. Quinn Ewers sticks around at Texas. I really wonder with the Mannings, Arch, they won't even let this man take NIL until he's the starting quarterback there at Texas. Not like he needs the money anyways, but do you think Arch Manning's going to leave after next season? I feel like he's going to be a 2-year guy, and maybe he's going to be a 3-year starter because they understand the importance of getting those kind of starts. So Trey Lance is a non-starter to me as far as being the Panther starter, no pun intended, but someone that you want to trade for, that doesn't make a lot of sense. If anything, if Carolina's not going to have Bryce, or if they're going to have Bryce, they got to bring in a younger vet who has more athleticism to push him. Like, I don't know, Jameis Winston. I can't believe I'm saying this. Why not give Jameis a chance as that bridge? Why not go out there and I mean, Malik Willis has looked pretty good in the last couple of games. He's got an opportunity there. And there was a tweet out there of him talking to the media and about his opportunity. I was auditioning for the rest of the NFL, and I went out there and I put a little emoji. I'm not saying that I'm endorsing that. That's something to look at. I would think you would want to go younger if the Panthers are going to go out there and try to bring in a vet to either push Bryce or maybe be that reclamation project or the future. And hell, Minnesota going to keep Sam Darnold? I know, coming from me, you would never expect Julian Council talking about Sam Darnold coming back to Carolina. Hell, maybe it's better the second time around. That's a guy to look at, I suppose. I think that would make more sense than someone like Trey Lance, who really has no experience, and I just don't know how that helps Carolina in the future. All right, let's take another quick pause. I'll come back, and I'll come through more of my DMs and see what questions y'all have here on this weekly Wednesday mailbag edition of Locked on Panthers. Get ready to tackle the NFL action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, because right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if you win. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL all in one place. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. You'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. That's FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. Live from Munich here on YouTube. Appreciate everybody who's tuning in here live. Got 109 with me right now as it's 4:38 there on the East Coast. The NFL trade deadline has come and gone. The Panthers have traded away Deontay Johnson last week, traded away Jonathan Mingo earlier today. Adam Thielen, he's here to stay. Jadeveon Clowney is here to stay. Miles Sanders is here to stay. And also Bryce Young, who should be the starter on Sunday, is also here to stay. Looking at more of your mailbag questions as we're just winging it here live on this episode of Locked on Panthers. Let's see. Got Peter, who lives in Denmark. He's been a big fan of the podcast. Appreciate you, Peter. Appreciate all of the international listeners. And I know someone hit me up earlier today saying him and his mates from the UK were going to come over here and was asking where Panther fans going to hang out. I sent him that DM. So hopefully get to see some of y'all there. I think the Roaring Riot's doing something at the Panthers pub, which is, there's a lot of I think it's like Augustiner Stamhouse. There's a lot of those. So make sure to you get the right address so we can drink some beers and revel in, I guess, just being a part of this organization. Let's see. Where is it at? I just lost this. Peter from Denmark said, got a question for the mailbag, if it's still relevant by the time you record. Hopefully it is. Bryce Young for Anthony Richardson, straight up trade. What are your thoughts? With this benching Bryce and the Colts benching Richardson, maybe it could be good for them both to get a change of scenery. Keep up the great work. Keep pounding. Thank you, Peter. Kind of like with Trey Lance, Richardson should have stayed his ass at Florida. If we're being real, I understand this is your time to go. This is your time to get your money, all that. And I don't know, like, we're regular people. We're not millionaires. It's hard to understand, why would you give that kind of money? Don't you want to have success, though? Do you really want to go to the NFL, make that much money, and be known as a dude who was a bust and tapped out of the game and have that be your legacy football-wise the rest of your life? Do you want that, or would you rather stay at Florida under Billy Napier? And I mean, Sunbelt Billy, things haven't really worked out that well so far in Gainesville. But would you rather just stay there, continue to develop, get more experience in the SEC, and you're still a physical freak? The NFL drools over players like this, even though we all knew at the time that he was either going to be awesome if he got the right coaching and put all of his effort in it, or he was going to be a gigantic bust. And guys, I said on draft day, the Panthers brought in Frank Wright. They got Jim Caldwell, got Josh McCown, Thomas Brown. They got this all-star coaching staff built around a quarterback. Go get the guy with the physical traits. Go get Anthony Richardson. I said that. And so far, it's not worked out in Indianapolis. Now, I did see some reporting, I think it was from Jonathan Jones, that the Colts were not happy with him after he had his shoulder injury last year, where he was not around the facility as much as they would like, and they have not seen the improvement. And then the whole I'm tired to tapping out situation, which, yikes, you never have seen that from at least I've never seen it from a quarterback in that situation. That was the last straw, and they had to move on for the team. Now, the Colts still didn't win on Monday night, but they had to make that decision. I liked it 18 months ago. Don't like it so much right now. Would still love for it to work out for him. But as I put out there, Adam Schefter said on Sunday morning that typically these guys in the last 20 years who get benched, they don't come back. They don't get another opportunity. Here's a question from Fred asking about Mingo in a trade deadline. Do you think getting a fourth while only giving up a seventh is enough to quiet the fans calling for Morgan's head after getting next to nothing for Johnson? I think he made a great deal with Mingo, and I feel like he took what was available for Johnson. I've heard the reason Pittsburgh unloaded him was because he was terrible in the locker room, and we saw that here when he was essentially said that this team sucks because he can't play every position. Not a lot of organizations will put up with this behavior regardless of the talent. Yeah, I mean, that's basically what we talked about last week, what I kind of said earlier in the show as well. He's a malcontent. Good player. He ain't that good, though. He's not a number one receiver. He's a number one receiver in Carolina because his team's not good. They don't have that kind of talent yet. And the guys that they hopefully want to be the number one receivers, Xavier Legette, it's too early for that to happen. So, yeah, in Carolina's the number one. In Baltimore, is he going to step him to be the number one? No, he's not better than Zay Flowers. Come on now. So they need to move on. And they had him. They've been shopping him for weeks. Teams knew they could get Deontay Johnson for nothing. And Mike K brought it up last week. Pittsburgh basically got a 6th-round pick. And it's not like Deontay Johnson did enough in 7 games for that value to go up drastically. And I didn't see Adam Schefter saying, well, Baltimore, they're so smart. They're going to get him. He's going to go re-sign somewhere else. He'll be a comp pick, blah, 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 blah. And we talked about the comp pick thing a couple of weeks ago on the mailbag where Carolina just signed so many free agents, and they have not had a lot of players in the last 5 years that have been eligible to be compensatory free agents to where they're not getting those comp picks. It's been since 2019 when they watched Bruce Irvin leave and they watched, I believe it was Vernon Butler leave, where they were able to get 2 comp picks. And those were in a 6th round. And that ended up being Deontay Brown. And I also believe Sanders, the long snapper who didn't even stick around, who was like, dude, oh my God, you're drafting me? A guy you thought you'd be seeing at Selling Pub all the time did not last. It's just ridiculous. But yeah, I think anyone calling for Dan Morgan's head needs to relax. He's not getting fired after this year. And he's actually made, so far, better trades than what we saw from Scott Fitterer. Now, the Johnson trade didn't work out, but the Panthers had to take a risk on that, and they did, and they've moved on. They have a number 2 corner out of it, and I guess you take it. And then this deal, to get a 4th-round pick for Mingo, who cannot play, don't hate it at all. All right, looking to see if there's any more here. Let's see. Kendrick, he's always got some good ones. Last one. Panthers Twitter is killing Coach Canales in a victory this week with the questions about his play calling. But is he not doing everything we asked for in his first year coaching? Bryce Spears be improving with every start. His offensive scheme, though frustrating, sometimes works. Sometimes the young playmakers are actively earning their spots and getting better every week. Minus Mingo, of course. He's no longer here, thank God. If he kept Sanders and Thomas off the field and won a couple more games, I would consider the season a success. What are your thoughts? Am I missing something? Yeah, I mean, they can win 6 games, triple that win total. It's a success in my mind. But more so, it's got to be a success because Bryce Young develops and he starts the final 8 games. And we see that week 1, week 2, where he looked the worst we had ever seen him, gets that break, makes a cameo against Chicago to be a shield for Andy Dalton, makes a cameo there at the end of that Washington game, comes in against Denver, a little not great, but then at the end it's like, oh, maybe there's something here. And then you see that improvement, you see that development, the way he played against New Orleans. If you continue to see it, then yeah, he's doing his job. But if it's more of the screen, showing no faith in his quarterback, then I don't really know how you can't sit here and question the guy unless he just doesn't believe in him. And if you don't believe in Bryce Young, why the hell did you take the job? I get there's only 32 of them, but this is the job you want to take with that owner? If you don't believe in the quarterback, that's just wild to me. Retirement fund, I suppose. It's not like the guy didn't have money already. Like all these NFL coaches have money. They might not all be millionaires, but you coach in the NFL, you're doing better than you and me and the rest of us. So you have to do this. He's got a lot of kids. So I guess. I mean, kids are expensive, man. Children are for rich people. That's what I always say. I know somebody's gonna be like rolling their eyes at that. Let's see. Yeah, it's about development the rest of the year with Bryce, but with the younger guys, I haven't loved it. I've also said the guy is still growing in this role as a first-time head coach. He's only been in it for 9 games. This is only his 2nd year as a play caller. You got to give him some time. I just have not been overly impressed. Now, that does not mean at the end of the day, I won't be a fan of Dave Canales. I'm just saying right now, I'd like to see more. So there we are. And that's kind of my take on it, Kendrick. And I think the take that a lot of fans have, just you're up 17-16. Your quarterback looks like he has more confidence. Why not be more aggressive than you were on that drive? Sure, second down, bad throw, but come on. Let's see more than what we saw in that situation. All right. That's going to wrap up this edition of the Locked On Panthers podcast, part of Locked On Podcast and Network, hosted by yours truly, Julian Council. Again, y'all, subscribe or follow the show free here on YouTube or wherever you listen to your favorite podcast. And be sure to follow me on Twitter at Julian Council, where I am going to be answering your weekly Wednesday mailbag questions again next week, as will be during the bye week. So please get those questions into me. Follow the game on Sunday, either at me or DM me on Twitter at Julian Council. But in the meantime, be safe, be happy, be whole. As always, keep pounding. And on Thursday, got our Locked On NFL Crossover Thursday episode with Patricia Traina. Had to actually record that earlier on Tuesday before I think the Mingo trade had happened at that point in time. But before we know what's going to happen as far as quarterback with Bryce Young. So just wanted to put that out there. So please tune in. Still plenty of good talk about what the Giants look like and some questions about the Panthers defense. We're going to talk about that on that show. Then I'll be back again on Friday. I'll actually be at practice. So we'll talk about what Dave Canales has to say and talk about keys to victory. So all that coming up the rest of the week here on Locked On Panthers.